Good morning, everyone that's tuned in to listen to this podcast. Today we are doing a podcast on change management, and we're lucky enough to have secured some of Lisa Morell's time. Lisa works for a company called D3, and she's going to talk to us this morning about her experience with regards to change management. So firstly, thank you very much, Lisa, for your time. And if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself, your role and your company, please.
Yes, of course. Hi, everybody. My name's Lisa Morell. I'm Head of Interiors over at D3 Office Group. D3 Office Group has been an established company since 1988. We've got 4 different sectors that we operate in interiors division, obviously, office supplies, workwear and PPE, and printed goods. Obviously, I'm head of the interiors division, and my role within the company is to oversee all of the interior side, so that is everything to do with refurbishment, furniture procurement. We generally work with the commercial and NHS contracts, really. So lots of interior developments with many different types of companies and different sectors.
Brilliant. Thanks for that, Lisa. I believe that recently D3's undergone quite a period of change. Can you tell me what was the driver or the reason behind that change, please?
Yes, D3's always very much prided itself on excellent service and really being available for the customer and giving the customer exactly what it is they need. Our tagline is "We do it your way," and as many business owners out there will know, it's an increasingly difficult market to deliver exactly what your customer's looking for when everything is all about cost all of the time. So we were looking for a way to pay attention to our margins, what actual profits we were bringing in, to allow us to give us that freedom to give our customers that excellent service. And be there for them at all times, and have those extra buffers as such that allows us to give that excellent service that you just don't find in other companies that are all about cheap, cost.
I understand. And with regards to that change, was it something that was planned to be sort of an incremental or gradual change, or was it something that was one real big change? Can you talk me through that, please?
It was thought about for a long time on how we would go about it. Obviously, conversations were taking place for probably about 6 months. Eventually, we decided that quite literally, we would assign a date. That date was the 1st of October 2019, and that the change would happen from there. We briefed all the staff. We'd spoken to the staff previously. We'd done lots of, obviously, staff communication on what we were planning to do, but the actual change itself happened from a very finite date, and it was one big change.
I see. Okay. And you mentioned there talking to the staff. How did you go about managing that big change to get buy-in from the staff and the suppliers and the stakeholders? What was that process?
Okay, yes. So we always, whenever we're doing anything here at D3, we always talk to the staff, because the staff obviously have to live with the changes. So it was vitally important that we spoke to the staff first of all. There was a little bit of hesitation at the beginning, because basically what we were asking them to do, we were asking them to increase margins ever so slightly to include the cost of delivery and installation, basically, so we could bring delivery and installation costs within the cost that we provided, so that we wouldn't have to charge those delivery and installation costs separately. And what that meant was that generally people made less margin, less profit on an order as it appeared on the system. But what that process was to counteract was to make the staff aware of the delivery charges that the company had always faced, just were always in the background and were never thought about. So we really brought that to the forefront. The people that were having to implement this, it helped them because they could see a physical percentage of what each order actually costs for the company to deliver and install, which helped them when they were pricing jobs, when they were looking at various ways of going about doing a job. It helped them greatly because we hadn't had any sort of finite number before. We obviously implemented that. There was a bit of resistance, as obviously for example, a lot of the reps that work on a commission structure, they would initially see a decrease, what they would see as a decrease in sales, but if they followed the instructions correctly and move forward with it as we'd all discussed, then we hoped that this would all level itself out, and basically what would really happen was that people would be able to see the cost that it has always been part of D3, but they would be able to see it physically there in front of them on every order, and they would be able to account for that accordingly.
Okay, thank you. So from your perspective at D3, it was about making sure that you sort of sold the benefits and had good communication with the stakeholders, and maybe sort of did some work understanding their emotional intelligence to make sure that they were on board. Is that fair?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, understand, thank you. And the overall outcome, it sounds like it was quite a large change you went through. Was it a success?
It was actually. It was a resounding success. We as I mentioned before previously, it was very difficult for staff to build in that cost to any given job, because it was something that hadn't really been discussed before. So that gave a lot of staff a real secure feeling that the costing that they were allowing for were accurate. And it also meant that we could really come to grips with what type of margin we were charging, why we were doing that. It kind of kick-started a lot of discussion about margin and about products that needed to be at low margins, products that needed to be at a slightly higher margin. Where did we sit in the scheme of our competitors with margin and with profitability? Were we seen as a cheap supply? Because obviously if you are trying to portray an image of quality and customer service led service, then you really it's good to be thought of as cost conscious but not as cheap. So it was really important for us to look at that really, and that did take effect with a lot of the staff, and as a result we did actually successfully increase our margin to a point where it's really given us the freedom to do all of the things, to employ more staff, to help us deliver a much better service. It's allowed us more freedom at delivery and installation point, again, to provide better service. So yeah, the staff we've seen a success. The staff have seen a success in ease of use day to day as well from it all.
Fantastic. That's really good news. And one final question, just to conclude this podcast, Lisa, please. With regards to making sure that change works and it is effective, what's your overriding message that you would like to share with the listeners about the best way to make sure change is a positive experience?
I think first of all, you do have to listen to your staff, and we spent, like I said, 6 months possibly listening to staff, and then also digesting that information and thinking through options. Ultimately, we did have to push forward with the change. That as with any change, there are people who do not want to change, and you do need to have that confidence that you've listened enough and that you've digested the information enough to then push forward and push past those initial barriers that that are put in the way, whether that's a little bit at the beginning of staff buy-in or whatever, but you need to have the confidence that what you are doing is right, and you have come to that conclusion as a result of listening and digesting that information. And then don't be afraid to then take that decision that you've made, push through to get the results that you need.
That's brilliant, Lisa. Thanks very much indeed. That's all the questions I've got for you this morning. So I'd just like to thank you on behalf of CIPS for your time. It's been very insightful. I'm sure the listeners will gain a lot from it. So thank you very much indeed.
Thank you. Bye.